Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Teho, and I have missed sitting here talking to you. It's been a minute, and I totally apologize. Um, After I talked to you last, it took us a couple of weeks to get over the flu, and we had lost our voices. And I was just like, ugh, it doesn't make sense to talk while I don't have a voice. And then after that, life kind of just got busy. And on top of that, we are staying with a family member who have literally just been throwing us curveballs. We've been juggling some balls. It's been stress and drama. Yeah, they have come with a lot of stress and drama. And which kind of leads me to what I want to talk about today, actually. I think one of the things that we miss out on as believers is the idea of saying no, the idea that being nice, it's not always okay, and the fact that boundaries are important. It's like if for a lot of us growing up, especially if you grew up in church, your parents have been nice. The people that you encounter at church are nice. So we kind of don't learn the value of boundaries. And I think that we equate niceness to being a fruit of the spirit, but it's not. One thing that I've learned is that people are always looking at you to see if you're going to have some boundaries. I never thought about that as a concept or an idea of life, but the reality is people are always checking you out and they want to see if you're going to have some boundaries. And it's funny, I was watching Maroon Golden some weeks back, and I've heard this from someone else, but he kind of explained it a bit further to me that niceness is not the fruit of the spirit, kindness is. But being kind doesn't mean that I have to be nice or I have to be a doormat. You see, the difference being that I can be kind to you and have boundaries, have limits of how far something can go. Depending on whatever situation it is, whether it's a financial situation, you want to borrow money, or you want more of my time, whatever the situation can be, a person can be kind, but they don't have to be a doormat. And yeah, so I learned this from Myron Golden when he was explaining that when you're nice, it means that you have to say yes to me all the time. If you want something, and I have to smile and say yes, and say yes, and yes again. And it's so funny because I grew up being what I consider to be the perpetual people pleaser. I have a hard time saying no. However, I never really struggled with boundaries even in my younger years because, first of all, my friend circle is a lot of girls that we met each other through church. And a lot of the girls that I worked with some really nice girls, but our relationship just never grew outside the boundaries of church. Like on a weekend, I was never really with my coworkers, I was with my friends. And because we're kind of in church together, we had a similar way of thinking, and we had a similar worldview, and we treated each other with kindness. So I grew up really not having a lot of drama in my life. And I used to hear people say crazy things about their friendships. And I ask myself, why would you be in a friendship with someone like this? And some girls, even when they are dating, they have this fear of their girlfriends stealing their boyfriends. And that just always used to boggle my mind. And obviously, I'm no longer living in the country where I was born. I'm living in Zim. And my friend circle, when I moved here, um, first of all, it's different because a physical location, I'm far from everybody. So maintaining the relationship the way that they used to be is not always possible. And the other thing is when people got married, others had children, children are in school, they're in extracurricular activities. I might see one or two friends in a year, and over the year we'll talk a few times. It's different, it changes, and it's not that you don't like each other or anything, but it's just that life is so busy that the way that the friendship was has evolved, and that's okay too. So because I'm in a different country, then I build it's like you're looking for opportunities to build friendships with a different circle of people. And I tell you, meeting people as an adult is quite difficult compared to the people that you grew up with. And yeah, this is where I've learned that some of the people will push your boundaries to see just how far they can go before you break. And I experienced this actually with one longtime friend. Um, they moved to Zim and I moved here. And actually, they introduced me to my husband. But over the years, even when we were in bots, the person was could be a bit challenging. Every now and then, they just I don't know, they could have like a mean side, but it wasn't coming out all the time. It was coming out sometimes. And most of us, because we're kind of in the same church, we used to bear with them and be understanding. And like I said, it didn't happen often, it happened once in a while. And then I moved to Zim, and the way that they treated me here was totally different from the way that they treated me back home. What happened was those nasty instances that used to happen um infrequently, it's eventually they started to happen more frequently. And so that's when I saw that, okay, this is a character and it's a little bit problematic. And anyway, one day things came into a head, and long story short, I just made myself not available to them the way that I used to be. So yes, we had a confrontation about things that happened, but at the same time, even when we still talk and we still say hello, but even when we get together, I limit contact. So in like every now and then, like once every few months when I see them, because they also moved to a new city, which was the grace of God, um, I'll see them for like maximum 20 minutes. Yeah, because they also come see me and say hi while they're in their way on their way to go do something else. So I've seen them maximum at least 20 minutes, which is fine, and I'm happy with that. And and the less we are seeing each other, the better we're getting along. And but now the challenge comes when the difficult relationship is a family member, and a family member who is in need. They've got nowhere to go. They are not working anymore because they are now older. It's an elderly person. They're not very old. They act more old than their age, but they are no longer able to work. They need a place to stay, and then they come to stay. And yeah, like I said, they have thrown us curveballs. And if I was to explain the situation that that's taken place, some of the things are so wild nobody will believe that it's possible. But it ended up to a point where I've had to have a confrontation with them. First of all, they're an elderly person. They are not my direct relative, they are my husband's relative. And if we are going to live a long time together, we had to set down some ground rules. And if you are African, you know some cultures are more traditional than others. And to sit an elderly person and to put the ground rules, it's something that is the unthinkable. My husband has, and because he's the relative, he's more sympathetic. He sees how the person is playing us like a harp. He's like literally playing us. I mean, there are days we get extremely frustrated, but there are days where we laugh about that, the fact that he's playing us like a sport. And because they also love to be sick, they like to feel sorry for themselves. And so sometimes the way they sit outside in the sun, and it's like, the house is comfortable. Why do you treat yourself that way? But it's like they want people to look at them and feel sorry for them. Oh my word, the list of things that go on here. From I think the worst is the tantrums, and where you sulk and you don't want to eat because you're sulking. And this can go on for days, and it's a bit scary if an adult is doing that, an elderly person is doing that to themselves, because you're like, dude, I don't think that your body can physically handle this much fasting. I'm laughing, but at the time when it happens, it's stressful. Anyway, it has been so much pressure that so we've been living with them for 3 months, and so we were committed for them to live with us. But in order to mentally and emotionally survive this, we figured we need help with the other close relatives to be exchanging. That even if they are more based here, every once in a while they go to the other relatives. So today was the first day for that to happen. And we pray that when they come back at the end of the week, they'll come back with a different mindset. But all of this to say, being nice is not the fruit of the Spirit. Kindness is. You can be kind, but still be firm. And this is something that my husband has dealt with. Like I was saying, like in Boss, I never really experienced challenges with boundaries. And a lot of people have said to me, when you're not smiling, you can be quite scary to approach. And I've heard this when I was working in airports, when I was a flight attendant. And I've once heard it from a friend. I've once heard it from a schoolmate he came up to me and then he started chatting with me. And I was in high school at this point, and it was our first week of high school. So he starts talking to me, and then after we talk, he's like, "Oh, you're really friendly." And then he was to explain to me that from a distance, he didn't think I would be an approachable person. But anyway, maybe that has been my saving grace. I am really generally soft and I don't like confrontation myself. But if you see me quiet, you wouldn't know that I'm actually soft. So that is my saving grace. But I'm the type of person that if things are going out of hand, either I'm going to express myself, even in my quietness, it gets to a point where I'm either going to express myself or I'm going to explode and lose the ability to express myself coherently. And I decided to approach this person and say ABCD. And yeah, why my husband struggles with it is the fact that he's much closer to this person. And the upbringing of the African upbringing of confronting your parents is just something that people don't do. You don't confront your elders, and so he's dealing with the situation best as he can, but he's gentle with it. Like I said, I'm soft, but Amon is more gentler than me, so he's got this negotiating approach and a very gentle approach and trying to sit you down quietly and speak to you as if you are a child. The person acts like a child, so he's gentle like he's dealing with a child. And the problem is that the feeling sorry character of it is in itself is that they want to be babied and pampered and coddled. And so when you do that as well, you're giving them exactly what they're begging for. And I guess that's a long story of saying that, guys, we don't have to be uh soft, not soft. We don't have to be nice all the time. You don't have to be that person that people walk all over you because they think that they can get away with stuff when it comes to you. It's okay to be firm. Being firm doesn't mean that you're ugly, doesn't mean that you don't love the Lord, doesn't mean that you don't not have the fruit of the spirit. Um and I said to my husband, how are we gonna deal with the devil if we cannot deal with a difficult personality? We have to stop the same way we sweep things under the rug and sweep them under the rug and think the situation is going to dissolve itself. It doesn't dissolve itself. The more we sweep it under the rug, it just grows even more bolder. And this is what I found with this, the first person I was telling you about. The more that we we were not realizing that we were in some type of a psychotic game, the more the person was getting bolder. I kid you not. I don't know if I've told you guys a story where we got up in the middle of the night and this person calls us saying she's extremely sick. She needs to be taken to the hospital. We get up in the middle of the night, take her to the hospital. We get there, we get home, we establish that they were drinking on an empty stomach. And so we rushed to the hospital. It was just drizzling, just the right what can I say, atmosphere for the way they were acting. We get to the hospital. One of us rushes to go call someone in the hospital with a wheelchair. As the wheelchair is coming, it's raining, it's drizzling, and she falls out of the car and lands on the ground. You guys can think I'm making this up, like, for real, for real. But the funny part is that Almond ends up fighting with this doctor to release her because she drank on an empty stomach. We go to her house and I say, why don't you just drink Mazoe? You're going to get to the hospital and they're going to want to put you on a drip. Mazoe is the local, what you call, imitation drink, like a concentrated drink, right? And she refuses, like, I'm going to throw up, I'm going to throw up. And then, of course, she goes to the hospital. Of course, they put her on a drip. Of course, they want to put her on a night. It's costly. It's more costly than staying in a hotel. And Amon is fighting these doctors to release her after being put on a drip. After some time, literally their face came alive. And Amon basically asked the doctor that, can you release her? She's okay. She's not sick. And he has this fight with the doctor. And the doctor makes him sign and said, if anything happens to her, it's on you. But the long and short of this is that this was another person who loves attention for sickness. And it took us a while before we figured it out. But when we figured it out, we were free. We never ran to every beck and call that they used to make about sickness. And we know most of the time it's faking. And yeah, there are interesting personalities in this life and they will play you. We have a relationship with a person who, when Amon was young, they kind of took him in. And the person can be very, very pushy. And it was actually a mutual blessing when Amon was staying in their house, but she only sees it one side. And a long story short, one time she and her friends are pushing to visit. And we knew this one friend was coming. And we had just been helping them with the wedding. If you're African, you know that an African wedding is already a long process. We helped with cooking and serving and whatnot at the wedding. And when it was over, when we were finally resting, she's telling us that she wants to come and rest. And I'm thinking, we're the ones who've been running like headless chickens at the wedding. How dare you say you want to rest? We are the ones who need to rest, right? But she insists, and eventually we we eventually give in, and she comes. And in the planning of it, they had said, we want to come and say thank you to you for blessing us with your help. But and we're asking how many of you is coming, how many of you is coming. We knew her and another person, but we knew the possibility that they will come with a couple of more people. So we're thinking 4 to 6 people, right? We keep asking how many you are, and they keep not telling us. And when they show up 13 of them. And it turns out that it's not a thank you for us. First of all, they didn't get involved in the serving. They said that they were going to serve us. We made the braai. They were late and they kept on pushing and saying, which is a barbecue. They were late. They kept on frustrating us, saying that they are hungry and we're cooking the tough meat that they bought. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, after all this is said and done, it was a thank you to some of the people who contributed, like a cow. Like there was a lady who contributed a cow to the wedding. She was there and it was a thank you to her. And I was like really baffled. But long story short, I haven't seen these people in a year. And I said to Amon, if I don't see them for the rest of my life, I'm quite happy with it. So, anyways, I don't know if I'm being clear though. I have to think about I have to think about a scripture. for me to support what I'm saying with scriptures, but I feel like as believers, we really struggle with boundaries, but even God has got boundaries. That's why He's given us the commandments. The commandments are boundaries. The blessings of the kingdom of God, they are not open for everyone. They're only open for people who've got a relationship with God. And we all know as believers, God had His 70, and then He had His 12, and then He had His 3, and he had his one. He had the 70, which was everybody. He had the disciples. He had Peter, James, and John, and then he had another special relationship with John. So, you know, boundaries are important. You don't have to be nice. All right, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. I know that I'm mostly what's the word, renting, yeah, but hope it is helpful. I know some of you guys are dealing with shenanigans, either with family, with friends. Yeah. Anyways, until next time. Bye bye.